quality of SRF's youth camp. I went to youth camp back in the 70s, and it was probably the best experience of my life then. It was a little piece of heaven on earth for me.
Because we come to this camp and it's just an ordinary camp, and then we transform it. And we have men and boys living together in peace, in harmony, and by the end of the week in virtually total love. And Master is there. His presence is so tangible that this place is transformed from a camp to a holy city. It's incredible.
Yeah, I was very blessed to be able to attend camp there. It was from 77 to 81, and I remember just wanting to go year after year after year. Just being in the company of my fellow peers my age, and being in the company of brahmacharis and brothers, and just really good times.
And I know in my Sunday school class, we'll mention Boys Youth Program to some new kid who, is going to be 10. And if there's anyone who's been there before, they're like, oh, you have to go. It's the best week. We love it. And there's definitely kids I could tell you, that have gotten older and maybe have gone through the whole program, just how much it meant to them and how much they enjoyed the week and the program.
I've been to youth camp for 3 years, and I love everything about it.
It is a gradual process. When they come, they've come from the outside world, and they're full of excitement to be there, but they're still thinking about all their activities they have at home. And slowly over the week of doing activities regarding meditation, how to live classes, all sorts of activities that focus on their relationship with God. And we also have a theme which helps promote this. They gradually change over the week, and it's very gradual, and you probably wouldn't even see the change unless you saw them from beginning and then pick them up at the end of camp. But they get a little quieter, more introspective, but yet they're still full of enthusiasm, but in a different way, a lot more joyful. And sometimes they don't even know how to contain it, and they just start dancing around and singing, and it's just a joy to watch their transition.
You'd see a boy come through and he had a rough week, and you had a rough week because you were with him throughout the whole thing, and he comes back the next year and there's just a change about him, and he's trying hard, and you just see this success of how he's just kind of evolving through camp and evolving through his life. And when you see that change taking place, I think that's really struck me, just to see the boys come back. And I love how the camp really gives a lot of boys a chance to change. And
the older girls, you really see them in tune with their spiritual life. They're making decisions about their spiritual life. That's their own. But yet in a very fun, relaxed way.
But mostly I'm grateful for the boys and the experience that they have as they're in our cabin and as they progress through the older cabins and then become staff in training and then become leaders themselves. It's such a wonderful experience for these boys. You just can't imagine.
I think the best indication of how the boys have changed as a result of the program is to see them grow up through the program. When they're in their early 20s to late 20s, and they come back and they want themselves to be group leaders. Or you find a young man of 18, 19, 20 that goes away to college and you don't see them for 5 or 8 years. And then they show up at one of our staff meetings and they want to desperately be involved in the program because it was so influential and supportive in their life. What you hear again and again is how they really felt loved as being a part of the program growing up. And it never leaves them, regardless of where they go. They always will come back, and that's pretty much thematically what you hear again and again with these boys that come back to the program.
Sometimes you don't realize how much camp has affected them until a couple of weeks later, a few years later. I had a same cabin last year as I did a couple of years ago, and it was just wonderful to see how they had matured in those 2 years. And some of the comments they made me realize how much camp had affected them. That their spiritual life had gotten deeper, that they were more in tune with Master. Sometimes it's not really apparent to you, but you hear it from their parents.
Like something will come up in the program while we're doing something. A boy will have a hard time with something, he'll be having a struggle, and you can kind of take him aside, and I think it's what they call in education a significant learning opportunity. And something comes up, you can explain it to him, and sometimes they'll just get it in this most miraculous way, and they'll do something that they didn't think they could do. And one of my boys said, and this was a 10-year-old, he said, "Mr. Bass, I don't want to do this." I said, "Okay, that's fine," and let some other boys do it. And I went over and talked to him, and I said, "You know, you don't have to be afraid if that's what you're worried about. I'll be right behind you. I'll be right behind you. Won't let anything happen to you. But you don't feel obliged to try. It's just up to you." And then we went on a little while, and he came to me and said, "Mr. Bass, okay, I'll try." And he tried, and he did better than almost anybody in the whole group. And he was so stoked. You know, the program is filled with things like that.
And I could see the devotion and the joy in the boys' faces, and it's very cool to be able to see them right at the start of the week, and how they just make a 180-degree turn transition at the end of the week. And that's just pure testimony on how Master's teachings really do work, and how they really do change a person's life.
From my own personal perspective, I don't think there's a more glorious, heartfelt program than the youth program and what it does for these boys. I travel a lot in India, and I had this opportunity to go to the girls' school outside of Purulia. And this girls' school, a YSS girls' school, was literally in the middle of nowhere in the Bengal district. But when you went into this compound where all these girls this particular morning were serving, pulling weeds, doing this, doing that, there are no words to explain the level and the depth of love that was within the school, within these girls, and what was going on there. And it was ancient India. For me, it was as if Divine Mother had kissed the earth right then and there. And when I think about our youth program, it's the same. When it is that we have all these young men and women coming to these camps, and we have this cadre of adults that come together and pour their hearts out into this program, again, it's as if Divine Mother kissed our camp and made it blessed.